Well, I think one of the things one of the things in history that the status researchers really made me understand is the rise of the Nazis. That like growing up in the UK, there's always this question: how could it have happened? How could this technologically advanced, sophisticated country descend into Nazism? And once you understand the role that status plays, it becomes completely, for me, it's crystal clear. Like before the First World War, Germany was just absolutely killing it. They were the most successful country in continental Europe. They were like had, you know, massive, like the Apple and Google of the days, BASF, Siemens, you know, huge companies. They were producing a third of the world's potatoes. You know, like quality of life had rocketed in the early part of the 19th century. And then the First World War happened, and they just assumed we're going to kill it because we're amazing. And of course, they didn't kill it; they lost. And so that's humiliating in itself. And you know, humiliation being the loss of status. And then there was the Treaty of Versailles, which was savage. You know, they had to give up a load of land, they had to give up their military, they had to pay the equivalent of hundreds of billions of dollars in reparations. When all that triggered hyperinflation, their economy collapsed. We took their industrial heartlands off them. So it was humiliation upon humiliation. Then Hitler comes along. And so this is the thing that we were never taught about Hitler in schools, which is probably still a bit, I don't know, it's going to trigger people, but it's the truth. Hitler was an incredibly successful leader of Germany for the time when he was in charge. The first thing which was a surprise to me was that when you see those black and white films of Hitler spitting and shouting and ranting, you assume that he's talking about the Jews all the time.
Have you seen how they've translated into English now with AI?
They're going through it, yeah.
In Hitler's voice.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
I saw that going on Twitter.
Yeah, it's fascinating because of AI. One of the things that they can do now, like that they can do even with podcasts. So this podcast, when Spotify runs its AI through it, they'll be able to translate you into perfect Spanish in your voice.
Wow.
And they have this technology now. I know they could do it in German, Spanish, and I think French. And of course English, and back and forth. So they could do that with Hitler.
For correctness, whether you believe that I have been diligent,
That's amazing.
that I have advocated for you in these years, that I have been decent, I have spent my time in service of my people. Now cast your vote. If yes, then stand up for me as I have stood up for you.
See, he's talking about...
That sounds so much scarier.
Yeah, it does.
Let me hear that.
The AI voice hasn't really got the attitude.
My work. Du, meine Arbeit für richtig hältst. Ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich die Arbeit...
That fucking accent, boy. Yeah. There's something about German. When you hear him yelling, you're like, instinctively. I think it's burned into us.
Yeah. But he's not. He like during the 30s, he wasn't ranting about the Jews because everybody was anti-Semitic in that period in history. But the middle classes, they didn't want to see the Jews being attacked and killed. It didn't play well, so he suppressed all of that stuff and all that ranting. Most of it, he's talking about, I'm going to restore Germany's status. I'm going to create this Third Reich, this 1,000-year kingdom, and that's what convinced people to support him. And he did it. He did like. Like some of the statistics are quite extraordinary. When the Nazi Party came in, a third of the population were unemployed, and by 1939 they had full employment. Between 1932 and 1939, GDP went up 81%. So he was doing the thing of restoring Germany's status. And when you see that footage of people going completely mad, that's when he's reversing the humiliations of Versailles. So he took back the industrial heartland by force. And nobody stood in his way. They went mad. He took Austria. Nobody stood in his way. So it was all about the restoration of status. That explains the rise of Hitler. And they did it like there was some mad stuff in the research. Like women would get swastika tattoos. They would do the Hitler salute at point of orgasm.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's kind of hot.
Yeah. There was a butcher that was making swastika sausages. People would even name their female children after Hitler. People with tuberculosis would stare for hours at pictures of Hitler because they thought they would make them better. So again, that's another example of that status. That's how mad people go for status. It was taken away from them, and he didn't just promise to restore it. For a while, he did restore it. So that's why they loved him. It wasn't to do with with really anything else.
When do you think meth came into the picture?
Oh, yeah.
Because somewhere along the line, the Hitler story is not complete
Yeah.
unless you realize Hitler was a meth head.
Yeah, and weren't his army on amphetamines?
Everybody was on amphetamines.
Yeah.
That's how they talked the kamikazes into
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a natural pattern
No.
of behavior for grown men.
No, no.
Flying
no.
planes and boats.
No.
You got to be fucking jacked.
Yeah.
Let's go, bitch.
No,
You just
yeah.
want to take everybody
Yeah.
out. But Hitler was a full-on meth head.
Yeah.
And there's video of him at the Olympics in 1936 just straight up tweaking. Have you ever seen that video?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
It's nuts.
Yeah,
and
it's
if you see
incredible.
that video, that's a guy like it's not not just doing that once.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the Olympics. It was my first time trying meth. No, that fucking guy was a meth head. You know.
That's it. Blitz. That was the
While
book.
other drugs are banned or discouraged, methamphetamine was touted as a miracle product when it first
Wow.
appeared on the market in the late 1930s. I bet it was a miracle. Indeed, the little pill was the perfect Nazi drug. Germany awake, the Nazis had commanded. Energizing and confidence-boosting, methamphetamine played into the Third Reich's obsession with physical and mental superiority.
See, superiority. There you go.
In sharp contrast to drugs such as heroin or alcohol, methamphetamines were not about escapist pleasure. Rather, they were taken for hyper-alertness and vigilance. Aryans were the embodiment of human perfection, and Nazi ideology could now even aspire to be superhuman.
Yeah.
And such superhumans can be turned into super soldiers.
That's it. Superhuman. So it's
Yeah.
the same as the the cult that was promising we're going to take you to a level above human. It's always the promise of these mad people that we're going to give you so much status that we're going to essentially become superhuman. It's what the communists thought as well, that the average human, their intelligence would become so much that everybody would be a genius. That's what they really believed that communism would lead to. Like the promise of these lunatics is always insane amounts of status, and religions too. That's what heaven is, isn't it? Heaven is.
And it's also hope to people who have none.
Yeah.
That if you go along
Yeah.
with this, and there's much more people that have none than have some.
Yeah.
And have a lot.
Yeah.
You know, those people are the problem. Let's go get them.
yeah, exactly.
They're the reason why I'm so sad.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't understand. That's just a trap. It's
Yeah.
just a giant trap.
a massive trap, yeah.
But it's so wild that most people don't address it that way. They just get, even really brilliant people I know, just get locked into these ideologically
Yeah.
captured echo chambers.
Yeah. And when there's a story that our status has been unfairly squashed and it's these people's fault, that's when it's dangerous. And of course you had that with the Nazis. They blamed the Jews for everything.